Thank you everyone for coming back to Twin Cities Tableau User Group. It's exciting that we're going to try doing hybrid events. I think we're like one of the first guinea pigs to try it out. So thank you for everyone who made the trip. And of course, thank you to all of us remote attendees. We're looking forward to seeing you guys soon enough in the Twin Cities area. And anyone who's remote from the Twin Cities, thanks for joining and listening in. We've got some good content today. All right, so today's agenda, just for the sake of time, because we have a lot of really great content to get through, and I want to leave more time for that than not. I'm going to skip over. So usually we do a get to know a member where we get a chance to meet someone in the room and get to understand a little bit more about their Tableau experience, what brings them to the community today. Just because we are in a hybrid event and I don't have the greatest mic situation, I think we're going to skip it for this time. But the good news is we've got awesome presentations lined up. So two big presentations. One will be embedded analytics using Tableau. So Brad Werner from DataDrive will be talking about using the JavaScript API and all the awesomeness that you can do with Tableau within an embedded environment. And then our second presentation for today is one that I've heard rave reviews from the other Tableau user groups around the nation, is how to create joyful Tableau dashboards with Figma. So it's a really cool process that Robert and Nathan will be talking us through. And again, they've been doing a little bit of a roadshow on this and heard really great things. So excited that they are going to spend time with our community today to just share us with all of their great knowledge. And then time permitting, we'll go into best things I learned / group therapy. So if you got any like Tableau questions that you're thinking through or just random things you want to talk about within Tableau, this is a great time to bring that up. Our community loves solving on the fly. And then for those of us who are here in person, we're going to be enjoying a happy hour. So even if you're attending remotely, feel free to crack that beverage right now. And we'll join you at the end of our presentations today. With that, I think I'm just going to pass it straight over to Brad if you're ready. All right, let's see if we can do this screen switch fairly quickly. All right, you want to mute yours? Okay, can anyone hear me? Give me something in the chat if you can.
Good on mine.
All right. Sweet. So yeah, what we wanted to talk about today is Tableau analytics with Tableau. A lot of people, when they're using Tableau, they think it's just Tableau desktop, Tableau server, maybe Tableau online, and it's just dashboards. And Tableau is a lot more than that. We'll cover a lot of the developer tools. I'd love to just share some of the cool things that you can do in the developer program. But specifically, I want to talk about embedded analytics, how easy it is for you to stand it up yourself, the different ways that you can stand it up. Because if you think Tableau is just server and just desktop, there may be some really cool opportunities for you, for your company, that maybe you haven't heard of before. So before I jump into it, who here is a developer? Like you get in depth with APIs, you love Python, you build websites. Anybody? Nobody in the room, which is great. This presentation is going to be fantastic for you guys. So we're going to talk about some of the technical content. We're not going to get too deep. I think the main thing I want to share is just benefits that you can get from it. I'm going to give you a little hint into the technical challenges with trying to embed in Salesforce, trying to do a basic embed, trying to embed using the JavaScript API. And just so you have a sense of what's involved so that you can take it back to your teams if you want to and pursue this a little bit further. So before I get into that, a little introduction to me and our team. My name is Brad Werner. I'm a solutions lead at an awesome consulting company here in the Twin Cities called DataDrive. And we are actually Tableau
premier services partner, which is super cool because our team is only 20 people, 17 consultants. And so I think we can attribute that to the level of support that we give to our customers and just how helpful we can be. So I am also really passionate about the intersection of people and data, helping people solve complex challenges. And I am also, based on my kids' response, I'm an expert reader of Dr. Seuss tongue twisters. And like my favorites are Fox and Socks and Oh Say Can You Say. So if you have kids or you're gonna get kids, I highly recommend those books because they're more fun for me to read. Sometimes kids' books can be a little bit tough. And so if you can find a way to enjoy it yourself, it's awesome. Sweet. So what are we going to talk about today? We're just going to look a little bit about what embedding is, why you should care, what do you need in order to do different versions of embedded within Tableau, how does it work, and that's when we'll hit on a really brief demo of the 3 different ways that you can embed. And then also there's some really great resources out there across all of Tableau's developer program, but especially within embedding, there's some really good resources and I want to share those with you as well. So how many people thought Tableau was just dashboards? Did you know about a developer program? Raise your hand. Data drivers knew about it and some people outside of that. Cool. So Tableau is so much more than that. There are specific APIs for you to manage your Tableau server or your Tableau online site. There's specific things to connect to like REST API data via a web data connector that you can build yourself. There's specific connectors that you can build. If you want to understand the lineage of your data, like, oh, if I have to change this field in this particular table, what dashboards are going to be impacted by that? And which owners of those dashboards or data sources do I need to talk to? There's tons of great stuff you can do with R and Python to extend your analytics into a little bit more of the advanced, like predictive, prescriptive, and then what we're going to talk about today, embedding. So JavaScript API, HTML files, stuff that you can do there. So I'll try and keep it high level, but one of the resources that I always talk about is the Tableau developer program. And so anybody can be a part of the Tableau developer program. You just join on this site, just Google Tableau developer, you'll come to this site where you can join it. And what you get out of it is a Tableau online sandbox that you can play around with. You can test out different APIs. Maybe you don't have something like that in your business and you want to let one of your developers free on some cool new technology that might be able to help you. This is a really great way to do it. So on their site, they have great stuff about the community. A lot of their material is on GitHub, including samples that you can just borrow from, copy, paste, and get all the insights or the advancements in the actual build that you might need. And then under tools, I want to highlight the different tools that there are before we dive into embedded, because if people in this room didn't necessarily know about the Tableau developer program, it's super cool to know that these things are out there at least. We might do some presentations on these in the future, but for now, I'll just cover them in a little bit of depth. So for data connectivity, connecting to REST APIs, connecting to data that's not natively connectable through Tableau. Web data connectors are fantastic for that. You can connect to databases via ODBC. You can create your own connectors. Automation is a huge hit within larger organizations on how they can streamline their server management processes. You can use the REST API to do anything that you would do via the click interface within Tableau Server or Tableau Online, like managing users, managing groups, managing sites, updating workbooks, data sources, and integrating Tableau content with a custom app or portal. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but tons of great resources out there for that. I'll skip over some of these other ones. Metadata API with the lineage of how the content on your site is all linked together. Webhooks is an API that can trigger actions and workflows off of specific things that happen in your site. So if you want to be notified when a workbook gets deleted or a data source gets deleted, you can integrate that with like if this then that with Zapier in order to create a Slack notification or a Teams notification or a text message or something like that. It really opens up the world of possibilities and getting notified about stuff that happens in your server. We talked a little bit about data science integration. tons of great stuff there. We have some cool blog posts on TabPy integration on our website if you want to check that out. And then embedded analytics is where we're going to stay. Extensions API, super big. This is growing a ton. Definitely recommend looking into that as a way to extend Tableau's functionality. But looking at embedded analytics, the things that matter to us are the JavaScript API. This is responsible for embedding things into your site and allowing different pieces of a website to actually control a Tableau dashboard. I'll show you specific examples of that in a little bit. Using the REST API, like we mentioned above, if you have a portal that you are embedding a dashboard into, you probably need to sync up the users in your portal with the users on your Tableau server. The REST API is how you do that. Single sign-on makes it so that people, when they come to your portal, they don't also have to sign into Tableau. That's super beneficial. So let's jump into some slides. Does anyone have any initial questions about the developer program, about any of the stuff we've talked about so far before I dive into embedded in particular? Nothing from the room? Anything from online? Sweet. That means you guys were super excited about this. You're all rushing to your browser just to see how you can implement this yourself. I'm sure of it. So for people who aren't necessarily familiar with embedded analytics, here's a really good definition from it from Werner. It is a digital workplace capability where data analysis occurs within a user's natural workflow. So it's not, I'm doing this thing in Salesforce and I want to know something about our sales history. I need to jump out to go to Tableau and view it. There's actually a way to take that Tableau dashboard and put it into Salesforce, put it into a custom portal to make it easier for your people to view it, engage with it. A lot of good benefits. So how does Tableau do this? We basically just take Tableau's visualizations, and not just visualizations. If you want to take Ask Data, if you want to take web authoring and put it in a portal as well, you can do that. And you can integrate them directly within external applications, like Salesforce, like your own custom portal, and a couple of other examples that we'll get to in just a second. So why is it awesome? So getting insights directly to people who make the decisions, employees, customers, any earthlings really. You can get the insights, all the awesome stuff that lives in your Tableau server, get it in front of them where they need it. So some common use cases are like in line of business applications, taking Tableau and putting it there so that they can have the insights they need when they're working on that type of work. You can take Tableau material and put it in a published blog or in an article. You can embed it directly in a CRM. Salesforce has a really great connector for this that we'll talk about in a second. You can put it directly in knowledge bases, and a lot of people, and we're seeing this in a growing amount, actually take this and make a productized service out of this. And so they may have data from their customers, and they can build a portal and then charge for people to get access to that, either as an increased fee with something that the customers already pay for, or maybe within a completely new offering, generating new revenue streams for somebody. And then you can also take it and white label Tableau for custom mobile applications. And when I say white label, that means like when someone's looking at your Tableau dashboard embedded in wherever it may live, it's really tough to tell that it is Tableau unless you know what tooltips look like, what filters might look like, which if you've been browsing the web, especially in days of COVID, you might be seeing a lot of Tableau dashboards reporting COVID data. I always try and pick out like which ones are using Tableau or which ones are utilizing other software. But yeah, that's very popular as well. So there's 3 different ways to embed, and these are just high-level descriptions of it. You can embed directly in Salesforce, and I'll show you the Viz component that you can use in order to do that. And that is as simple as copy and pasting a link from your Tableau server or Tableau online site, or even Tableau public. It's really simple to configure. There's no code, nothing like that. It's just not as customizable. There's another way you can copy embed code directly out of Tableau server or Tableau online into your website. That's just copy and pasting code, same sort of thing, just not as customizable. And then you can get super custom with the JavaScript API. So the only downside of that is that more coding is needed. And depending on your skills with developing, that could be a positive that you get a little bit more control. So what do you need in order to do this? So for starters, you need Tableau Desktop or Tableau Public. You need something to build the visualizations. And then you need a place for those visualizations to live. So like Tableau Server, Tableau Online, Tableau Public. There's just a couple of limitations between using one or another. And then JavaScript knowledge, maybe. If you're using the Salesforce connector, you don't need that at all. If you're using a basic link, you don't necessarily need that either. And HTML concepts, good to know for both the middle category we just looked at, copying the embed code, so that you know, oh, within my website, I know where this goes. I can format that. Or via the more custom option, HTML skills are needed. But definitely not as many skills needed down here on the site. So then if you want to go even further beyond all of this, like Tableau Desktop, Server, those stay the same. And if you have Server, you have more control over the visualizations that you're embedding and how they look, how they function. JavaScript expertise ticks up when you start getting into that more advanced column. HTML knowledge picks up. That REST API, what I talked about with synchronizing users in your portal and synchronizing them with your server, very, very important. So having REST API skills, which could be any coding language, could be Python, could be lots of others. But those skills are definitely needed as you get a little bit higher. There's things called trusted authentication and tickets. I won't get into it too much. If you have specific questions about like how you authenticate into this seamlessly, just know that it's possible. And if you have specific questions about it, we can talk about it. So how does embedding work? It takes those things that we talked about, like HTML web pages, JavaScript, Tableau Server. And basically HTML is just saying, I'm gonna put a visualization here. JavaScript is the thing that actually does put that visualization there. And Tableau Server is the thing that brings the visualization to your portal or to Tableau or to Salesforce or something. Any questions before I move on to a demo? Yes, Serena. Serena asked, where am I getting my icons? Our company has a very premium subscription to Flat Icon. And so we use that for lots of our presentations. If there's one thing you get out of this, it's that icons can be really great for presentations. Perfect. You can thank Luke for that. Okay. So I need to explain this GIF for just a second. When I originally started at DataDrive, on our Slack channel, Trent would be doing a demo for customers where we finally get to release a dashboard. Of course, we've been working with the internal team, but now we're going to release it. We're going to demo it to all the users. And Trent would put this GIF in our Slack channel. It's like Chip Games demo time. So anytime I'm doing a demo, I need to put this GIF out here. Sweet. And let's jump into a couple of those things. Let's see if I can move this guy. Nice. And I'll bring up my links just because they're in my presenter view at the moment. Not that. What if I have presenter view? Okay. So under this, I've got all my different links. We're going to talk through this, so it's totally fine if you see my notes. But we're going to talk through a Salesforce embed, the basic embed, and more complex stuff. If the stuff I've been talking about so far has got you on the edge of your seat, then this will probably like push you off, and you're going to be super excited. If it hasn't gotten you on the edge of your seat, maybe I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker than I thought, just so we can just highlight some of the components. If anyone has any questions, please stop me. I'd love to make this as personalized as possible, but I'll just go through and show you some really high level stuff really quick. If you want me to go deeper in anything, I definitely can. Sweet. So looking first at that Salesforce embed. So with Salesforce acquiring Tableau, I wanted to say recently, but that was actually like June 2019. Salesforce actually built something into their product in combination with Tableau called the Lightning Web component for Salesforce. Gigi is a Tableau developer advocate for Tableau, and she's got a video down here talking through the process. I'm going to show it to you really quick. I won't show you the video, but I'll jump into like a test version of Salesforce that I have access to and just show you how simple it is. So how many people in here use Salesforce? Anybody? Got a couple. Awesome. I'm sure everyone remote is raising their hands. But if you're not using Salesforce now, maybe you might be using it in the future. And it's good to know that this is a possibility when you're embedding Tableau. So if I jump over to, let's just say service, you'll be able to see something that looks pretty familiar to Tableau users, our spinning icon. And then this is just a dashboard that's embedded in it. Nothing special about it. If I go up to my settings, move my stuff, and say edit page, this is as simple as embedding gets. So there's an app that you download into your Salesforce site called Tableau Visualizations. You just take that, drag it where you want. It's kind of like a tiled layout. And so once you have that there, you get options on the right-hand side in order to put the URL for the Tableau view. I just took this URL from one of my Tableau public visualizations, put it in. These are things associated with the JavaScript API, but they make it really simple in the fact that it's just a checkbox. Like, do you want to show the tabs on your dashboard, which sometimes you might want to embed a workbook that you can jump between tabs, or maybe it's just one particular visualization and you don't want to show tabs. Or if you want to completely white label the Tableau visualization within Salesforce or within what you're embedding, this toolbar down below, you could just uncheck show toolbar. And then you specify the height of what you want it to take up within your Salesforce page. And then within filters, some of the things that people love about Tableau dashboards is you can make them super custom. And so when I come to a dashboard, maybe I see only the sales regions that I'm responsible for. And if someone else comes to it, they see their stuff. Just know that that functionality is still available within Salesforce. You can just add a filter that says a particular field is equal to something. And it could be a Salesforce object, so that if you're reporting on Salesforce data, you put this on maybe an opportunity within your sales pipeline, and then different visualizations are filtered just to that. So when I mentioned that this is just clicking and configuring, that's how simple that is. Any questions there before I move on to slightly more complex? No, you guys are all tracking. Cool. So, oh, please.
What are the requirements for sign-on?
The requirements for sign-on are really whatever you want them to be. And if you have, yeah, yep. So single sign-on, there's a lot of documentation about it, and it's really up to you. And so if you have an identity provider like Okta, or if you have something through Active Directory, you can set that up, and there's detailed documentation pages on Tableau's documentation site. Just say Tableau embed single sign-on for whatever your identity provider is. And if you don't have an identity provider, you can do, like, say you have an app or a portal that you want people to sign into, they have a username and password. You can use something called trusted authentication, where if your portal lets them in and they have a username and a password, they can send that to your Tableau server, say, is Brad a member of your Tableau site? And then it gives you a ticket, which is just a string that goes with a request to the Tableau server to say, like, yeah, give this person access to this visualization because I've checked that it's there. That's what trusted ticket authentication is. Your web session that stores the SSL can pass. Yeah, Rick Hoffman. Nice, Rick. Yep, and good question, Anna. Sweet. So let me know if I didn't cover that enough. Cool. All right, so basic embed. Let's talk through that for just a sec. When I mentioned that you can take a link or embed code from Tableau server or Tableau online and put it on your site, you definitely can. And let me log into my Tableau online site. Sweet. So the site that I'm about to log into is the Tableau Developer Program. I talked about that you get a free sandbox This is me logging into that. So if I want to jump and explore, I can look at, let's see, I think I put one in samples. Jeff created a HR analytics thing that I'm going to grab. So this one, this. So this looks really similar to anything you would see on your Tableau online site or your Tableau server site. If I move this guy again, underneath share, there's stuff where you can share it directly to people. You can share using a link, and then there's this button down here that says copy embed code. And if I copy that, I can go over to this blank HTML page, which doesn't really have much in it. I'll show you in a new window what's currently there. All it has is a title, it's got a picture, and I'm gonna be putting a dashboard here. So if I jump back into that site, I paste that embed code that I just had, hit format, hit awesome stuff, and then jump back over to this site. Now I have an embed. And it was that simple. So when I said copy and paste code, that's what I meant. It's like I knew I had an HTML page to embed it into, and I knew where to put it. But that's about all you need. And so within it, we talked about like being able to show the different tabs up across the top. So we've got one dashboard, but maybe this other one isn't really meaningful at all. And you don't need this tab. It's not showing you anything. You can actually turn that off. So if I jump back to my HTML page, I look down here, maybe this didn't format it automatically the way I wanted to, but take a look at this. So we've got name, tabs, value equals yes. It's as simple as coming in and saying no. And then when it refreshes, I don't have tabs at the top. Now say I don't want the toolbar at the bottom, it's that simple as well. Switch from yes to no. Refreshes. Now this is what, when you hear white label Tableau, that's kind of what they mean. Is you can build your visualization. You can use all the power of Tableau to create a custom dashboard that fits your site, fits your portal, and then you can turn off all the other things that may identify that it's Tableau in order to make it more seamless into your site. Sweet.
Brad, do you want to talk about the sign-on security aspects of this method?
Yeah, so security and sign-on for any of these methods are pretty much the same. And it really depends on your specific situation, whether you're using Trusted Ticket or you're using one of the other authentication providers. Like if I go into my Tableau online site, back to Explore, down to settings, up to authentication, and look at some of this, it's like within Tableau Online, you have a slightly reduced subset of authentication methods where you can use Google's OpenID, you can use Salesforce, you can use SAML, which opens it up to a bunch of other ones like Okta or OneLogin. And if you want to set up those connections, they have detailed instructions about how to do that here. If you have Tableau Server, you have even more options available to you. Yeah. Any other further questions on that piece? Can you repeat this? Rajbir, do you want to elaborate on that piece, or if you think I need to repeat something really quick? I'll get the next piece, the last part, about authentication. Sweet. Let's just go to the documentation, because let's go Tableau, Embed. And one of the resources that I'm gonna talk about is called the Tableau Embedded Analytics Playbook. And you can Google it, find it, it's the top result. And it talks about all these different pieces. So it gives you an overview of all the different things you need in order to embed. And then one of the things that's mentioned here is authentication and single sign-on, where they talk through trusted authentication, where they talk about the other pieces as well. And so maybe that's probably a better resource than me trying to answer a question over chat. Sweet. All right. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions afterwards. You can message me directly. I'll be watching Nate and Robert's presentation afterwards if anyone has any questions. Cool. Yep. question from in here.
Coming from not knowing much about single sign-on itself, maybe this is obvious, but can you set it so, like, say you've got two different single sign-on portals. So, like, say you've got two different clients and they each use different single sign-on. Could a given Tableau Online leave one single sign-on method?
That's my understanding at the moment, but if you want to talk about it in more depth. Yeah, it's like, I don't believe that you can set it up for multiple.
You got two lines or two servers.
Right, which would probably be hard to manage, like the content between both of those, unless they were completely separate portals or things you were trying to embed in different locations. But if anyone in the chat knows differently, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll take that as an action to look into, see if you can have multiple identity providers using the same Tableau online or server side. Cool. So let's jump back to my handy links. Nice. All right, more complex embed. So I'll show this super quick. I don't think we'll get too in depth in it, but this is just a visualization that Sam on our team built about supply chain insights. It's got filters at the top. It's got some insights. It's got some key metrics on the left. And if you've noticed, actually as a teaser for some of the other stuff that's coming up. So like dashboards that have this particular look may not be able to be achieved straight in Tableau. You see how it's kind of like card style. You've got this drop shadow. If you're interested in that, Robert and Nate's presentation next is going to be what describes all that. And so when I go to our embed, this is another version of a Figma dashboard where you have a background and you float information on top of it. Sweet. So the thing I want to point out here is how complex you can get in more advanced visualization. So you can white label Tableau just like you would before. If I wanted to remove this toolbar, I could. But you can build a portal using all of your HTML and JavaScript knowledge and then incorporate your visualization within it. But that's not where it ends. You can actually have things within your web page act on your Tableau visualization. And so when we want to export certain things, we can export to PDF, to CSV, to crosstab. There's small lines of code within the code that powers this embedded portal that just pop up the native download PDF window or download the native CSV. So if you clicked export to CSV in Tableau Online or Tableau Server, you can build all those things in here too. And so this may not be like how you envision your portal looking, but if you can think about how you want your portal to function, just know that you can integrate some of that awesomeness into your Tableau visualization. And another example is like you can make filters act on your dashboard. And so if I had a filter on the left-hand side, I probably would also have a filter on the dashboard, but I want it to be there so that you can see that when you click on something, say if I wanted to have a Minneapolis warehouse filter enabled, clicking on an object within my portal actually filters down my dashboard. And so you can get as creative as you want with that. And if you want to revert to original, there's stuff that can do that too. Does anyone in here or at home want me to go into the code behind that?
Here's how we learn to do that. Like, I don't use it right now. I want to take course, but I will look at code and just absorb it into my brain.
Okay. So for the people remote, Kayla had a question about how would you go about learning the stuff that's behind this? And I'd say there's a lot of sample code that's available from Tableau. They have their GitHub portal with lots of samples. They have lots of great resources that can help you learn all of those different things. So a couple that I'll highlight here, there's the analytics playbook that we talked about that walks you through embedding start to finish. That is a fantastic place to start because it gives you a high level overview of everything you need in order to do that. And then you can dive into the places where you might not have all the experience. There are awesome playlists, and Andre puts out fantastic content on his YouTube channel and on his company's YouTube channel about, I think it's a 9-part, maybe it's expanded, embedded analytics video series, which is fantastic, and learning what it is, learning the different types, how much JavaScript do I even need to know, how much HTML do I need to know, what can I do with this? He's got a really good series. And then there's tons of good examples out there. So I think you can steal from places. And so if you know a little bit of JavaScript, or even if you don't, you can use those as the basis for learning. And then there's also this really handy site. So Tableau Basic Embed, if you just type that phrase into your search engine of choice, you'll get this page. And what it does is it breaks down the different things that you can do with embedding, like loading a visualization, exporting data, filtering data, getting data out of it, responding to events, selecting marks. And it shows you a specific embedded example, maybe not the greatest visualization of all time, but you're interacting with Tableau. I think this was built a while ago, so we will give them slack for his design. But then underneath, it tells you the exact code that you need in order to recreate that. So you could take this, put it into your own website, and replace the URL with a URL for your visualization, and you're good to go. And if you wanted to learn about anything else, I'll just do one more example of, oh, I've got a thing on my website. This is kind of like us in filtering warehouses. So if I want to filter a particular year, I'll go to 2013, and there's something at the top that was filtered to all, and then I had filtered to 2013 here. It's not writing back at the moment, but you can see it switches that way. So the resources that I list at the end of this presentation, I think are fantastic for getting started. Yeah, so that's something I think about when asked about just learning Tableau in general, is like, do I try and get a good foundation of everything, or do I specifically go after something that's related to me? And I found that initially starting out, just diving into what you need to do is the thing that keeps you motivated in like, well, I have this specific need and I know how to get there. I know these resources, so I can learn that piece. I wouldn't say that's the most sustainable learning option, but to get you started, that's great. And then you can kind of fill in with one of those courses later. I'm sure people have been successful in just like, I want to learn everything about JavaScript and everything about HTML and then jump to it. It's just that might be exhausting for someone just starting. Okay. Any other questions? Sweet. Looks like none are coming in. So if anyone has any other questions about the developer program, all the other stuff that you can do with Tableau and Tableau's infrastructure beyond dashboards and anything that you thought was already possible, chances are it is possible. And I would love to talk with you about it just because I nerd out on stuff like that day in, day out. So thank you for letting me present. This was super cool. So all right, and we're going to do a computer switch back to Luke's computer so that Robert and Nate can do their presentation.
Hey, Robert.
You all ready for this, Nathan?
Robert always looks like he's in a Mac commercial or something.
Yeah, let me blur it a bit more. No.
If I look like I'm in a hotel, it's because I am.
You guys
Yeah,
want to fire
make it
up
even better.
your screen share? I'm gonna get set up in this room, and I'll let you know when everyone can see and hear you. Okay.
Nathan, sorry, I missed it. Do I need to share? You want to share? Oh my God.
Yeah, you're the. You're the sharer. So we got 43 people online. I don't know how many people are in the room.
You just wait until I get the sound working.
Okay. Well, we can say hi to our friends online.
All right, keep talking so I can test the volume.
Test 1, 2.
All right. Can you hear us all right? Not that you need to.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Sweet. I mean, we've got hundreds of people in this room, Nathan. Like, no pressure, no pressure.
There's a little bit of slap back.
I'll go on mute and I'll hand it over to you, and you tell me if there's still a problem.
Cool. Yeah. So it was kind of hard to hear the questions in the room, so we'll just need you to be the translator.
You got it.
Thank you.
Hi, Nathan. I'm observing you through Figma.
Oh, you are. Look at you go. Cool. All right, guys. So my name is Nathan Settembrini, and we've got Robert Crocker here. And today we are talking about the aesthetics of joy and how you build those into your dashboards using Tableau and Figma together. Yeah, so is it following my screen? Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, so what we're actually giving this presentation in Figma on purpose as a way that you guys can see some of the features and functionalities. And so what Robert's doing is observing my screen. So we're collaborating on this Figma file online live. Pretty cool, like a Google Doc. But yeah, Robert, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Robert. I am currently, for the next few days, a freelancer, and I'll be joining Slalom as a principal consultant very soon in San Francisco. But yeah, I've been working in data for a decade, nomading for over 4 years now, currently in Chile, and working with Figma for 2 years now. Before that, it was Sketch, and before that, it was just Tableau and pushing pixels. Figma's been a game changer, so really looking forward to sharing a little bit more about this tool with you.
Cool. And I'm Nathan Settembrini. I'm a principal consultant at Analytic Vizion. We're a local model consulting firm based in Atlanta, although I'm also a nomad, more of a US-based nomad. But we'll be spending the next year in the Denver area. But yeah, so Analytic Vizion, we are at the intersection of operational strategy and analytic insight, and our visions to equip and inspire the next generation of data and technology leaders. But yeah, so I actually started from more of a business perspective, with the engineering background, doing Excel, found Tableau, and that was probably 6-7 years ago. And then Robert actually introduced me to Figma, and that helped me take my Tableau design kind of to the next level. We've been using PowerPoint to create little shapes or whatever you need. And so you'll see how we can use Figma to create picture perfect or pixel perfect type backgrounds for the dashboards. So I don't have any formal training in design, but thanks to Robert and some of his courses and a book that we're going to talk about here in a second, I've been exposed to a lot of design principles. It's actually kind of funny how many data viz professionals have either some sort of background in photography or music or some sort of art, specifically in visual arts, and how that translates into the visual component of our dashboards that we design.
Yeah, so on that point, I know we're a little long-winded, but my dad's he's a photographer, but that doesn't mean those that don't have a background in this can't learn this. Our presentation, we're just going to break it down step by step, so y'all can pick up the principles.
Yeah, absolutely. So in our presentation today, we'll be showing how you can use Figma and Tableau together to create better design dashboards. And so to introduce some of the fundamentals of design, we're actually borrowing concepts from a book called Joyful. And in the book, the author defines 10 different aesthetics of joy, which are ways that physical attributes of our designs can generate joy in our users. And so in the book, she tends to focus on product design, interior design, but it's totally applicable to DataViz. And so think of it like pre-attentive attributes, which we're hardwired to quickly interpret. So there are psychological and physiological reasons why we respond to the external world in certain ways. And so understanding how appearance of something can evoke emotion, subconscious primal response, can help us a lot in creating joyful dashboards. And so we can create a more pleasant experience for our users, drive engagement, pull people into the data so that they want to better understand it. And there's actually research that shows that business people will make more accurate decisions when they're in a joyful state of mind. And that's because joy opens us up to new ideas and insights. So it's not just fluff, which I know a lot of super technical people tend to say, like, oh, just give me the table, or oh, just give me the bar chart. But it can actually open up our users and drive engagement, which is really the end goal. We're not trying to create shelfware. But yeah, so today we're going to walk through the first 5 aesthetics of joy. Each one of these is a tool that you can basically have in your design tool belt. And you can use them kind of like levers to varying degrees to create a design that suits your application best. But yeah, so to start, what we did is we created a super bland, boring, using all the defaults and kind of bad design dashboard. And Robert and I, we're gonna spruce it up in front of you right here. So here is the.
And Nathan, I want to piggyback on what you said about the it's not fluff or shelfware. Yeah, we know people don't make decisions rationally, more or less. Like we want the facts, we say we want the facts, but often emotions drive our decisions. Fine, that may or may not be relevant to DataViz, but what is relevant, and there's a fine line. We're going a little hard on the joyful play aspect of things in this presentation. So whereas an application like Instagram, very engaging, it is more joyful than maybe in a standard operational dashboard. And let's think of a dashboard as a product interface. Whereas even further on the edge of joy, you might have a TikTok user interface or a Snapchat user interface. Those are catering to particular demographics. So like be aware of your audience when you're making these designs, but making something that, besides how joyful it may or may not be, making something that looks good is worthwhile because you'll get more utilization, you'll get more engagement. People will want to use what you build rather than what Nathan was alluding to, this shelfware. I've heard trash boards recently. Like you make it and then it gets put in the trash.
That's clever. All right. So Robert, I believe it's your turn to take it away, or maybe it's mine.
I think it's still you. So yeah, you're
Okay.
right. This is our standard. But we're gonna the first one we're gonna hit on is harmony. So you introduce that concept.
Yeah. Sorry, we're a little rusty here. So harmony. So we're going to walk through these 5 aesthetics. Harmony is all about balance and rhythm. Using symmetrical shapes, geometric patterns, and what this gives us psychologically is, this is associated with well-being and safety, and it's so much easier to process information if it's ordered and organized, right? And so we're going to take these concepts of balance and rhythm and use Figma to start to work that into our business dashboard.
Cool. All right, so now what does that mean in terms of this dashboard? So the process that I generally go through let's take this as a redesign, right? We're not starting from scratch. We have something to redesign. So we need to first try to get a handle on the concept or the content, if you will, and surveyed the content with some KPIs, location data, metrics being compared, and leases coming to an end. It's like the important bits here. When you put boxes around those, or really just locate them, this one's actually nicely aligned. Sometimes you may have KPIs over here and KPIs down here, and it's just very chaotic, but our KPIs are along the top. Then we've got our location information over here. We've got some comparative metrics and leases coming to an end. So what we can do in Figma is create a frame here, these big white boxes. They're a little different than standard rectangles. And what we can do when you really have nothing in your white box, you do have a grid. So we can check that out. And in Figma, that is simply by adding a layout grid. So over in my paint, like my design panel off on the right-hand side of my screen, you can see how I added some vertical grid lines and some horizontal grid lines and edited those. And it's pretty simple to do that. Then if I bring back our content here, you can see it looks nice and harmonious. Why is that so? It's actually because it conforms to a grid. So it's like this magic tool for like creating harmony in our dashboards. You can see the title text hits that top line. Then we've got our KPIs. We've got some gutter spacing in between our KPIs and our location, and even some padding in between the bottom of our charts and the bottom of this.
Robert,
this frame.
How did you determine the spacing and the gutters and all that? What's your process for that?
There's a lot of heuristics there, but I've got a course on my site that you can go check out that goes into much more depth on the concepts of layout grids in design. I made a course because I feel like this is something that people don't know about, and I never want to look at a blank screen and not have gutters at my disposal, or sorry, grids at my disposal. They help give order to this blank canvas. So you can see now how I compose this harmonious layout, if we will. What we then need to do is export this, and I'm just going to export it to a folder on my computer, and then in Tableau, you can see our width of our frame is 1440 and our height is 1024. Okay, I can make this whatever I need, but 1440 by 1024 is a nice standard size. And then in Tableau, I'm just going to drag this image out, and we're going to select harmony here, like that. You want to fit and center. And then what we want to do, so our image is in here, great. It does look similar to what we just saw in Figma, but it's not. We need to go to our layout pane and check out our item hierarchy. Look at my padding, my inner and outer padding. So when I click on the top level, the most parent element in Tableau's dashboard, we see that there was a default 8 pixels of padding around everything, and that's going to throw us off. And then inside of that, there's a default 4 pixels of padding. So you just want to make sure to zero that out so that your image fits what you've got in Tableau perfectly. Yeah, Figma image and Tableau are matched up. No padding, squishing things as we don't want it to do. But yeah, if you want to check out layout grids, you can go to the course on my site, and you'll learn probably more than you want to know about layout grids. But that's Nathan.
Awesome. All right, so we've got harmony incorporated into our design. Now we're going to move into freedom. And so freedom, the whole idea here, let's make sure. I thought for a second I was muted and you guys were just sitting in silence. So this is all about open spaces and the sensation of wild nature. So this is, you can also incorporate natural textures and materials, scents and sounds to basically try to soften this boxy man-made world that we've created with all kinds of sharp edges and constraints, right? And so the reason why this is joyful is because we can move around more freely. It creates better visibility. So if you think about if you're up on top of a mountain or a hill and you can kind of watch for predators, there's nothing lurking. So that's why freedom, that freedom of movement and escape is something that we're just kind of hardwired to appreciate. And we can do that in dashboards. This is probably one of the more abstract ones to incorporate, but the most logical thing to do to incorporate this is to create negative space and give yourself some freedom around your visualizations.
Yeah. So how do we incorporate that in our where we left off last? This is what we had. We've got some white space around here, and again, this is the more subtle points in this presentation. But we wanted to show a good example of this, and this is from my friend, our friend Josh. He just does a great job of leveraging white space to, make something that this could very easily feel busy. This could be anxiety inducing, but he's put breathing room in here. He's made it feel much lighter simply by introducing white space. So this is a fantastic example. Our dashboard, it's got a lot of information. So we'll show you how we did it. Personally, not in love with it, but we tried to introduce freedom with these like varying differently sized boxes, right? We have a visual hierarchy here. Our title, biggest, like most important element on the screen. So it's going to get the most space around it. Our bigger blocks, they are hugging our title, and we sort of break the grid a bit with these blocks. But it's okay, we're trying to break the grid to introduce more of this freedom, not make it feel so clinical. You can barely tell, again, in this example, but our KPIs, they're slightly more separated from one another than the inner content is, okay? Our inner content, it has I believe those blocks were 20 by 20. And we've got a 32 by 32 and a 40 by 40. So we've given a little less freedom to that inner content. We don't want you to have to jump between elements. They're slightly closer, so that proximity should suggest that they're more tightly related to one another. So
Robert, I think it's important to note the reason why you chose numbers that were divisible by 4.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, so why numbers divisible by 4? Often you'll see numbers increments of 8, and we just don't want to split pixels as we go down. Before I learned a bit more about design, I was like, I want 20 pixels in between this is good, and I'll cut 20 in half, and then I'll get 10, and then wait, when I cut 10 in half, I get 5, and 5's a little funny. Now if we cut 5 in half, we've got 2.5 pixels. And that's really why you want to start from a base unit of 2 and work up from there. 8 is like the smallest significant unit of separation that I'll find myself using. And generally I like to use much more than that. If you are left with only separating your content in 8 pixel spaces, that's a very tight layout. So that is a good call out. Good call out, Nathan. Let's see here. I wanted to nicely hide those. And then in doing so, we can kick this out. We can go ahead and export our freedom background. And then in Tableau, we just update our image. We don't need to bring another image out and adjust that padding anymore. We've done that once.
Hey, Robert.
So, yep.
We had a question in here and I just wanted to surface it to you. So
Cool.
you mentioned like the gaps between like title and in between your visualization aspects. Is there a reason to choose a certain width on the side?
So let's see if I did a 12 column grid. Let me look. Yeah, 12 column grid. So notice my 12 column grid. Well, 12 is a very important rule of thumb, very important heuristic. 12 is divisible by many things. We can have 6 if we're trying to organize our content using these columns. We can do that with 2 columns of 6. Sorry, 2 columns, 6 columns wide. It's a lot of columns. We can make 6 2-column widths, etc., etc. We can do 3 columns of 4, 4 columns of 3. You're going to see 12 used to organize content digitally quite a lot. So that's why I use 12. And notice my column width is 80. That's lovely. I just made it really easy on myself. And when my column width is 80 and my gutter width is 20, I've got a width of whatever this is, and it leaves me with these gutters on the right and left hand side. So that's why we end up with that. It's like work from the inside out, and it also helps your user like center their eye on the middle. Like if you ever go to medium.com or any journalistic sites and their content is what they want to be the main focal point, their content's going to be centered and it's going to be white space on the right and left hand side to just give you a sense of ease so that you focus on what's in the middle. But that's all built off of grids. Long-winded answer. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more context into why.
Thanks, that's perfect.
Cool.
Oh, and it looks like Rick had a question in the chat. What's the timeline and time commit for your free course?
Free course, yeah. Free course, 30 minutes. Paid course for 27 bucks. That's like 4 hours. It doesn't have to be 4 hours. I'm sorry, the course is so long. But free course, we made that something that you can like do in your lunch break. The gutters, if you want to go deep on this stuff, that's a bit more. So
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it was cool to hear you talking about Medium and like just the ease that you get by having that sense of freedom on the right and the left. That's cool. So now we're getting into the fun ones, and so the next one is play. And so this one it's interesting. But if you think back to childhood and all the fun things about being a kid, a lot of them are circles or spheres. So like think, big lollipops, beach balls, merry-go-rounds, and so in most of our man-made world, our buildings are rectangular. Everything's you think about a hospital room or a kind of a sterile environment. It's just like lots of sharp edges, and so play is incorporating circles and spheres and curves into our designs. And because these rounded shapes set our minds at ease and invite our playful inner child out into the open, as she says. So it's a way to incorporate some shapes, some fun shapes. And actually, we can talk about visual design and You know, we can argue about pie charts and bubble charts. But, you know, so this is not something you'd want to incorporate into every visual and into every dashboard, but it's something that you can use sparingly to add a little bit of extra pizzazz. And so why do these things make us happy, make us feel joy? It's, you know, so we have this hardwired response that's negative to sharp things, like think about teeth, spikes, thorns, but these rounded edges are safe. And so we have this positive response to it. So Robert, why don't you show us how we can incorporate some play into this dashboard?
So if we look at what we had previously, we notice some sharp edges. Figma allows us to clean that up a bit. So that's one of the things that we're going to do in this. And we're also missing those spheres that Nathan was talking about. So let's figure out how we can get those in. I'm going to introduce some icons here. So the icons that I use are from the Noun projects or flaticons.com. You can also check out fonts.google.com. I'm using a bubbly font. We really went hard on the bubbles in the play. Then I also found this fun app called Blob Maker. So I want to share that. We can shuffle our blob, make it even more organic with some more edges, and then actually download that. And if I show this in Finder, and then go to Figma, pull up my Finder at the same time, you can drag and drop your blob, right? So that's how you use Blob Maker, all right? It's got rounded edges, it's fun. Maybe it's not a sphere, but you can get the gist. This was made with Blob Maker. This was just a sphere in Figma. A sphere in Figma with some effects on it, okay? So doing fun things. And in our dashboard, you can see the font that I've used. It's actually usually not like as fluffy as I made it, but I put a stroke around the font, which is text manipulation in Figma is, I won't call it next level, but it's definitely next level from what you can do in Tableau. And that allowed me to make it a little bubblier. Notice the corner radius is what this thing's called over here. So we can make our, what was once, you know, these edgy boxes on a screen a bit more rounded. We introduced our circles and floated those over the top of our rounded edge rectangles to make it feel as though it's layered. Really, really neat. And same song and dance here. Just export your frame. And then in Tableau, we sort of cheated. We had already done the corners. Again, we will edit our image and we'll select that play image. And once we do that, kabow. Now we have a much more playful looking dashboard. And those icons, I worked really hard to find ones that like had a bit more roundedness to them. So yeah, that's how we're doing that.
Awesome. All right, two more. Hang with us. Abundance. So we haven't even gotten into.
I'm observing you. Are you checking out? Are you?
Oh, no, I'm not. I was actually
You're looking at my screen.
I'm looking. Yeah, just to don't observe me.
Okay. Sorry.
I was leaving you a comment though that it's actually flaticon.com. So if you check your little comments up there in the upper left hand corner, you'll see a note for next time. I'm a big fan of Flat Icon.
Got it. Okay.
Super helpful.
Cool.
All right, so let's head over to abundance. So this is all about repeating patterns, giving you the like kid in a candy store feeling. of excess and variety, both in quantity and so physical, sensorial abundance, like basically just like polka dots and stripes and different colors and all kinds of crazy palettes. And if you think about it from a food perspective, it'd be like a huge buffet of all kinds of amazing things. Or you walk down the Whole Foods, like the fruit and vegetable section, and you just all this produce. It's just like, oh man, there's so much here, and that evokes the sense of joy because scarcity is a bad thing, right? If we are hunters and gatherers, a tree full of fruit gives us joy, right? A field full of flowers, that it shows that this is a vibrant, healthy, good place to be, with lots of good food. And it's actually how we, that you would choose one place over the other. It's like there's all kinds of beauty and variety. And so we can incorporate this on our own in the dashboards using repeating patterns, different shapes and sizes, and also in a variety of chart types. So, if you ever, there's actually a thing like visual atrophy, I think is what I heard someone call it, where if you have a 10 by 10 grid of bar charts showing you all kinds of different metrics on different axes, I'm not talking about like I forget that, you know what I'm saying, but you kind of lose interest if it's 20 bar charts all on one screen. You kind of mix things up and it makes it a lot more interesting. So let's do a little bit of that, Robert.
All right, so this is where we left off. Scrolling down, I went off to Dribble. This is a place I like to start my design process. I don't use abundance as much as I would like to say I do in my designs. So I found one that has this concept already baked into it. So this URL shows us this image that you will see colored later. And it's got these repeating patterns. And I was like, ooh, repeating patterns, it's perfect for the talk. How do we do that in Figma? So you can see I've got some repeating patterns over here. But in Figma, it's nice. We can make a circle, and I'll make it 40 by 40. And then I'm just gonna drag this over and give it some space, and then duplicate maybe, so we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. Maybe, yeah. Ooh. I'm gonna highlight those guys. Let me lock this. Bam. Now I'm gonna, I highlighted. I think I've got some things off of my frame. It's messing me up. Oh, all right. I'm gonna unlock the patterns. Great. Escape. Do I have access to my circles now? Yes, I do. Give me a sec. Where are our ellipses? All right, those guys, a lot of layers on here. So I'm gonna select the first one, and then I'm going to shift select like you do on so many things, and then just drag these down, give them that 20 pixels of spacing, and then duplicate this row a few times. And now, I think, where's the last guy? I do not know what layer I'm selected. That's the problem. Let's see here. Let's see how many. Wait for it.
Yeah,
Getting close. It's not even, they're not grouped, they're in a frame. So what I wanted to show you is like, all right, we've got all these polka dots, if you will, and we can offset those however we want and color them all at once and have a lot of fun, right? That was what I was trying to do.
It's fun just watching.
Yeah, sorry about the weirdness here. I think we've got some layer conflicts with all the other dots, but that's how I made these little grids. And I then brought them into our design. We already had our bottom left and top right corners taken up. So I used the top left and bottom right and had some looking like they're floating on the top left and then an inset on the bottom right to almost make you feel like these two things could connect with one another. The vertex dot, not sure if they do. And what the heck on my frames? Let's see. Let's see here. What have I got? Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Dis ungroup them. Cool. I had a whole lot of things grouped. All right, we're gonna kick out abundance. That sounds like a fun phrase. I'm gonna kick out some abundance and bring it into Tableau. Abundance. No magic. Same thing. All right, back to Figma. Yeah, and now I can grab those like I wanted to. Sorry, I had like a phantom layer getting in my way. All right.
Cool. Love it. So now the moment we've all been waiting for, we're going to add some color. It's interesting. In the book, she actually talks about energy first, and we decided to do it last. And you know, these 5 steps that we've gone through are not necessarily in order. We were kind of thinking about the arc of the presentation and yada yada yada. But it's kind of like writing a song. Like you don't always write the lyrics first. You don't always write the chord progression first. It's kind of a art science kind of thing happening. So I'm sure you'll find a flow that works for you. Sometimes you may start with, ooh, I need these visuals in this order and in this layout. It's like, okay, so now you have a layout, right? Or maybe you have a brand palette that you're already going to use. And it's like, I know that this needs to be our company teal or what have you, right? So you can start with different elements of this and then build on top of it. If it starts to feel like, man, this dashboard's kind of boring, how can we spruce it up? Oh yeah, I remember those 2 guys talking about aesthetics of joy. So energy. So this is all about bright colors, caffeine for the eyes, she says. So why does bright color spark joy? And think about it's signifying life. It means if I'm looking at 2 boxes of strawberries, one of them's kind of a dull brownish, dark, whatever, gross looking strawberries versus some really bright red strawberries. I know that the bright red ones are going to be tastier and more full of nutrients and signifies vitality. I mean, you guys get it. And so how can you incorporate energy into your dashboards? Well, a fun color palette. And not only on the Figma side, but also kind of using that same color palette or a complementary palette in your Tableau visualizations as well. And there's all kinds of good resources about creating your own Tableau color palettes. You're not limited to the colors that Tableau gives you in that little dialog box. You can actually create your own in the preferences.tps file on your computer. You can create really awesome color palettes. And there's actually a whole, I saw that, I think it's the Flurledge brothers and some other people have started building a Tableau color palette resource that's out there online. If someone has that and can throw that in the chat for everyone else, that would be super awesome. But yeah, take it away, Robert. Let's get some energy in this baby.
I was looking for mine and I don't see it. Do you know what folder that's in? My Tableau repository, preferences TPS. So I can show, there we go. Yeah, like you can see my mini map along the side. I've got like all the material design color palettes in mind. So yeah, just
What app is this?
this is another presentation. But anyway, that's my TPS file.
I have no Notepad. It doesn't look quite as pretty.
No, sorry. Gotta get on that VS Code game. Okay, so this is where we left off. Here's our Dribble image in all its glory. How do we get colors out of this? Robert, show me how to make a blob, but I want a color palette. So when you go out here and you make this image your screen, we can use this extension called, I think it's Site Point. What's it called? Site Palette. Okay, so check that out and just click it, and it sort of take a snapshot of your screen, and then cranks out all these fantastic colors for you to use. And we can take a screenshot of that and bring it into Tableau, or not Tableau, Figma. And then I can, click on a shape and color that thing from the little palette that we made, right? So do whatever I want. No. Cool. So that's how you can use a little extension like Site Palette. And I do not like what I just did, so I'm going to undo that, to give yourself your own sort of generated palette from an inspirational piece, right? We found this inspirational piece. It's got a palette that sort of jives with what we're after. Let's Site Palette do its palette generation thing and just color pick from that. If we really want to mess with it, we can take each one of those like primary colors, break them down, dropping their like level of saturation, so that you can get varieties of a single color. And then if you don't want them to be so neon, maybe soften them up a little bit and rinse and repeat with the same desaturating steps underneath. Let's export. Yeah, let's export. It's not abundance. I think it's energy. It's going to ask me if I want to overwrite. Yeah. And then to Tableau. We are going to put this image in there. Energy. Boom. Boom. Cool. So I really did just like get some caffeine, or it's my green tea. I'm not sure. But that's our playful dashboard. That's an image, but what about Tableau? Okay, we are working with charts and graphs and whatnot. So incorporating those into the joyful dashboard is like a separate sort of thing. But this is how you make a very playful background for your Tableau dashboards. You can see we've taken those energized colors into our charts as well. One more thing is the animations. Animations are also a little playful feature, right? So having them slowly transition instead of like jarringly snap, that's a subtle but important cue as well. Okay.
That's actually part 2 of this talk when we get into magic.
Ah, cool. So that's that, right? We took the standard dashboard, did not lose any information, but just refaced it, derived, sort of sucked this joyful image out of it, manifested that, and then used that in our dashboard, and this thing totally works, right? It's just a background image. It doesn't feel maybe as Tableau-esque. I mean, it's got a layer, for Christ's sakes. Like that can't be Tableau, but it is. It's just background image magic that we've used to make your work a little bit more joyful.
Awesome. Can you click over to my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So there's this concept that people who've gotten into this book, and like my wife is one of them, where she's hashtag joy spotting, looking for joy out in the real world. And so people taking pictures of, candy stores and pretty buildings that are colored different ways and whatever. But we did a joy spotting exercise here. And we're actually going to use our friend Josh's work. So Data Josh, this dude based in the UK, everything he makes is beautiful. So let's take a look at some of his work and try to identify joy spotting or these aesthetics of joy, right? So if I zoom in on this one, you can see freedom right off the bat. I mean, look at those gutters or buffers or whatever you want to call them. Tableau's default when you drag elements in was 8, right? And then it puts 4 pixels between the things. This is probably, what would you say, 100? 80
Yeah, I don't
pixels?
know. I wish I could, if we take this, it's like, I don't know. Whoop, that was the wrong button. Boop. It's a lot of space. Josh uses a lot of white space.
Yep. He's also using fun colors. So energy that we just saw, he's got these curves in the visualization that would not be kind of a standard Tableau thing. So he's using some kind of Sankey type trigonometry to draw these curves potentially. Or maybe Tableau, maybe there's just a fine enough grain that it looks like curves. But very fun. If we go over to the Nintendo Switch, obviously more bright colors, more padding. I just love his use of color. We do have this kind of flow diagram that's fun. You can see down here freedom, both in space and also in this natural background image. It's Viz about Bob Ross, so it only makes sense. But and then look at the variety, the abundance that he's got in this this chart type, and also using 3 different chart types in a very simple dashboard. And then this one, more variety and also some play, right? So we've got these curves, we've got the bubbles. This would be kind of a decent use of a bubble chart. It's kind of like a bubble heat map. But yeah, Robert, anything you would add that you see? Some nice design.
No, I think one thing I was thinking about freedom as well is if you don't have the opportunity to create additional white space, I feel like you can almost create freedom with a gradient. Whereas you go from a darker color to a lighter color, almost feeling like a horizon. It's like it feels more spacious. You're like giving this sense of depth almost with a gradient potentially. So anyway, the concepts that we've shared, it's like motivating principles for you to use to try and make your designs a bit more joyful. And I think by summing them up into these five points, there's plenty to work with. You saw that even us just scratching the surface on each of these, we did a lot of work to that original image. There's a lot more that we can do. But even just using one of these is better than not using any of them. So
I
encourage you to make.
Like, if people that you work with, if you admire their work, or people in Tableau Public that you follow, just take a gander at their work and see like what are they doing, and try to identify some of these aesthetics of joy in their work. Potentially look at your own work and say, how could I make this one step better by introducing something that I learned today. But yeah, so Figma is a free tool that you can start using immediately. And you just go online, sign up for a Figma account, and you end up with a blank slate. There are some limitations to the free version, but there's also a local application that you can download to your computer to do it. I almost always just use the browser-based one, but Brad, you have some questions for us. Let's go. Give us the preguntas.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. So how early in the dashboard design process do you guys start bringing in Figma? Is it at the very end after you've developed a layout, or do you do it early on to get like buy-in in the overall design and then just like redesign? And that's not a big deal because you're using Figma. Is it one of those, or is it something else?
Yeah, so I'll answer, and then Robert, you give your perspective. So there, I like to think about a continuum of fidelity in data viz wireframing or product wireframing in general, right? So you think about low fidelity mockups would be, hey, I've got an idea, I'm going to scratch it on the back of a napkin, right? Or I've got a thick marker and I'm going to try to do it on a whiteboard. And then you can get into more medium fidelity mockups where it's, you know, someone did it in PowerPoint with some boxes, or we've been using a tool called Miro, which is an online whiteboarding tool where you can draw boxes, and it's not pixel perfect like Figma, but it can allow you to quickly get some concepts down. And Figma actually just released a beta version of their competing product to Miro called FigJam, which is a lower fidelity version of what you would then later create in Figma. So usually a dashboard starts with a business problem or a question, or this is a whole nother like requirements gathering and wireframing kind of talk, but high level, you start with kind of an idea and then you can build up in terms of fidelity. And then Tableau is obviously your kind of final productionalized highest fidelity version. But yeah, I typically I wouldn't introduce Figma at the very end. It kind of comes into the middle of the process somewhere.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Robert?
For me, I use Figma to save myself time and create better designs more consistently. So as soon as someone's asking me for something, to see something that's not, you know, some sketch, right? As soon as it's beyond the point of that level of fidelity, I use Figma. Because I need those grids. I don't want to look at a white canvas without any order. I use the grids to create my layout and start to engineer the interface that I'm going to be ultimately presenting. So that's my answer. As soon as I need to create something digitally, I'm going to Figma to save myself time and make good designs.
Cool.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
All right. More
So I
questions?
think there was a request for everyone on the call to turn on their video, and we're going to snap a picture. So maybe Robert, stop sharing.
Yep.
And if anyone else has any other questions, we'd be happy to take them either on the chat, or Brad, if you've got any more.
We're frantically working on a photo op right now.
Cool. Oh, so are we in the background? Is that what y'all are taking a in-person picture with us in the background?
Sleeping puppy.
So cool.
He's passed out.
All right, for everyone remote. Yeah, everyone remote. You can turn on your webcams.
Turn your webcam on. There we go.
Look at those Nikes. That's impressive.
You're good. Go for it. Awesome. Thank you. The fun of trying to do a hybrid event.
I know. We're back to the hybrid world.
Awesome. Are there any last questions from the remote people for? Oh, sorry, we have one more in the room.
Hashtag joy spotting on Griffin's webcam. His Nikes are sweet. All right, in the room.
So when creating custom backgrounds, like for those of us who create dashboards for other people who make this, like those other folks might maintain it or like iterate on it later. Sometimes I have a conflict of like, should I make this awesome custom background? And then what if they have to update it later and like they feel like I left it in the lurch because they don't know Figma, they don't know how to redo it? I'm sure there's not like a great answer, but is there anything you guys say to people like make it work?
Maybe Luke can repeat that.
Brad, can you translate, please?
Yeah, I'm going to condense it down. So how do you get, what is the right balance for doing custom design in a business setting where you can either build this really bespoke dashboard that you leave for somebody, or you build something that is a little bit more future-proof and they can iterate on it, and most importantly.
Yep. So I'll take that. There's some things that you can do in Figma that you can't do in Tableau, and that's where, like, if that's your case, you're not working in an environment where this person's going to get into Figma and make updates and adjust the layout accordingly, and this dashboard needs to iterate a lot, then I would use Figma to help me quickly get a sense of the layout that I want to create, and then use Tableau's containers and Tableau's inbuilt padding and to give myself that layout in Tableau that was derived from what I used in Figma. I can iterate a lot faster in Figma. I can explore the design space more in Figma and then bring that knowledge that I've acquired to my designs in Tableau that are in ways that aren't just simply a background image that someone has to update. And that text, we don't need bubbly text all the time. You can just use Tableau as text. So you're gonna be a little bit more limited in how nice your design may look, how crisp it might look. But if you need somebody else to get their hands in there and they're not going to pick up Figma and play with that, then just use Tableau's inbuilt features inspired by what you've done in Figma.
Yeah, I would just add that future-proofing your designs is always a good idea, making things robust. And so if I'm handing something off to a client that has a Figma background, oftentimes I'll try to break out as much, like if there's let's say there's a company logo in the corner, rather than having it in Figma, I'll float it on the dashboard because company logos change, right? I actually had that happen last year with a client. So the other thing is you can think about creating a brand standard, or maybe you already have one internally where it's, hey, all of our dashboards kind of look like this, where we have this header bar or the filters in this particular spot, whatever it may be. And maybe if you don't have that, you can use Figma to help create that for your company. And then now you could create half a dozen different views, different potential layouts for people, and just export them and have a repository of here's 10 potential dashboard layouts, and then people just drop them onto a canvas and it's always the same size, right? And float your elements in the right spot and you're good to go. So it's a way to help kind of scale good design as well to people who may not be Figma users.
Yeah, but really good question, because right, we kick out pixels from Figma. We don't kick out anything else. And then in Tableau, you've got like an application that you're creating, a product that you're creating that's changing. If you change something in your Tableau dashboard that doesn't jive with that background image, it's very clear that these things are out of sync. You need to go back to Figma to update that if you're taking this approach. So if you're not taking this approach, then just recognize that you don't want to create that that issue in the future. So use Figma to inform, and then leave it there. Just use Tableau to recreate as best you can what you created in Figma. Maybe that's another good way to do it. It's like make something look really, really cool in Figma and then try to do that in Tableau. And if you can't get close enough, then you can argue to someone why they should use Figma. It's like, hey, if you want to use Figma, this is what we can have. But without that, this is what we're left with. If you're okay, cool, go the Tableau route. Otherwise, adopt Figma. It's a lot of fun to work with and free.
Yep. Yeah, so Brad, I realized we were standing between the folks in the room and some beverages. So are we done?
I'm gonna say yes, you are. This is Luke. This is Luke being the bad guy, not Brad.
Okay, Luke.
But thank you, Robert, Nathan, for sharing all of your wonderful knowledge. We're about to send you a thunderous applause to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you to the Tableau community for showing up for our first hybrid event. Thank you for showing up in person. Thank you for coming remotely. We're looking forward to continuing with this theme of hybrid events going into the summer. We don't exactly have our spot picked out for July, but it'll happen. So look for that on our meetup page, and we also are on usergroups.tableau.com. Thanks for attending, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, see ya.
Thanks, guys. See you, Robert.